tuned in. On 3FM Drive 92.7.
Hello, good evening. Welcome. This is Hot Edition. We're live from a news about Desawe Kanda, also live on Kesme 107.1 in Tamale on W93.5 NY and beyond. This evening, as Antino Tumfor say to the second is set to resume mediation talks with feuding factions in the Bawku conflict from April 28th to May 1, 2025, as calls intensify for government to take decisive action to de-escalate the tension in the area. We've got details for you. Stay with us here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Also, this evening, Ghana awaits IMF Executive Board approval to unlock some $370 million to release after reaching a staff-level agreement under the ongoing 3-year economic bailout program. Economists say Ghanaians would have to brace for some tough times ahead. We'll get details of that for you shortly here on Hot Edition. Also, we'll get some reactions from the Volta regional minister who has slammed the Electricity Company of Ghana over the persistent power outages in parts of the region shortly here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Also in the western region, the military destroys a hidden Galamsey settlement of over 10,000 residents. We'll tell you about that shortly here on Hot Edition, plus the latest in business and sports for the next 1 hour, 30 minutes. As always, we're streaming live on Facebook at 3FM 927. Share with us your thoughts, views, comments, and opinions. Read out to you and to the rest of the world. Let's settle for a summary of the news now. And I'm Holly Guys here.
Now, in today's summary, the Supreme Court scheduled the hearing of injunction application against the petition seeking the removal of Chief Justice Gertrude Tokonu for Wednesday, April 16. The Apex Court had adjourned the matter indefinitely last week after receiving notice of the Attorney General's unavailability due to a symposium. The former Attorney General, Godfred Yeboadame, representing the plaintiff, Vincent Asifwa, expressed disappointment over the absence. The plaintiff argued that the petitions are procedurally flawed, claiming the Chief Justice was not granted a fair hearing before the consultation began. Meanwhile, the staff union of the National Service Authority has issued a strong statement condemning attempts by political party foot soldiers to interfere in the operations of the authority. In a press release, the union warned that such interference threatens democracy, erodes public trust, and compromises institutional integrity. They urged the youth of the Western region to remain calm and called on the government and political parties to respect the independence of the NSA. Now, in Parliament, the Select Committee on Sanitation and Water Resources has called for sweeping reforms in the sanitation sector, raising concerns over contracts awarded to Zoomlion Ghana Limited. Member of Parliament for Mampondas Kweku Sapon said it would no longer be business as usual. The Accra Metropolitan Assembly raised red flags over the government's fumigation contracts, citing lack of stakeholder involvement. Now, in Kumasi, Mayor Richard Ofori Ajiman Buedi has announced that traders operating illegally on the pavement in Edum area are beginning to comply with orders to vacate. He assured that threats to lash non-compliant traders would not be enforced due to growing compliance. However, starting Wednesday, April 16, the Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly will begin a strict decongestion exercise to restore order in the central business district. Traders who defy the directive will face firm action. That's the summaries today.
I'm appreciating for this morning. It's on 3news.com. Make some time and visit 3news.com. This is Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7, also on Kesme 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. We're live on W93.5 in Wa and beyond. Let's get into the stories now. The Asante Otunfosi to the second is set to resume mediation of the Bawku conflict as agreed with the feuding factions from April 28 to May 1, 2025 at the Mensha Palace in Kumasi. Now, in a brief statement released some few hours ago, we have a copy of that statement. If you go on our Facebook page at 3FM927, going to see that. Now, the Asante requested all stakeholders involved in the collective effort to bring about lasting peace in Bawku to cooperate with Mensha as efforts are intensifying to resolve the conflict, which has resulted in many casualties and destruction to property and livelihoods. Meanwhile, the Ghana Police Service has expressed concern that its personnel and their families have become targets of attacks in Bawku and its surrounding areas. Consequently, the Inspector General of Police, Christian Tete Yohuno, has banned the movement of police officers and their families to Bawku and its environs. The IGP further instructed officers already deployed in the region to wear protective gear and ensure they are escorted by armored vehicles for their safety. This measure is aimed at addressing the increasing threats faced by law enforcement in the area after two uniformed police officers traveling on a motorbike were killed at Binduri. I'll speak to Richard Kumalo, his further security consultant shortly. He's going to be joining us. Colonel Festus Awaje as well is connecting with us on the telephone, and Colonel Festus Awaje, retired, is one that knows about the conflict resolution and in terms of understanding the dynamics of the conflict in Ghana and beyond. He's joining us on the telephone right now. Colonel Festus Awaje, good evening. Thank you for joining us here on Hot Edition.
Yeah, Chief, thanks for having me.
Now, we're just hearing the statement that from the 246 to the second, was set to resume the mediation in the Bawku conflict between the 28th of April to May 1, just within this 3-day period for the initial, conversation with the major stakeholders in this conflict. What should be the areas of focus for this mediation team led by 246 to the second in finding lasting peace in Bawku?
That's quite a tough question. I thought you were asking me the significance of, the renewed engagement or the reactivation of it. Let me try and, approach it from that angle. I think this press release, short as it is probably the best news coming from around the Bawku conflict at this time. To answer your question, we need to place the context of the conflict at this stage. Place the conflict at this stage in the right perspective. We are somewhere around 1957, when at that time there were two Bawku Nabas, the Kusasi and the Mampusi, which some authors have reflected as two kings, one kingdom. And that, is not a tenable situation. At the time, Kwame Nkrumah was able to address the impasse by establishing what we now know as the Opoku Afere or Afere Opoku Committee. And then also with the benefit of the Supreme Court at the time, which quashed the Mampusi writ against the recommendation of the Opoku Afere Committee to recognize the Kusasi as the Bawku Naba. This time, however, we don't have those kinds of leverages because the Supreme Court has already pronounced itself on the conflict. And some have argued that what we have now is a situation of illegality. But the challenge is that when one defies the Supreme Court ruling of 2003, the only person in this country who can help resolve that issue is the Nairi, the king of the Mampusis. And so far, it does not appear that the Nairi is going to deskin Alhaji Saidu Abagri, who was installed in February, I think, of 2022 or 2023. So the engagement of the Asantehene at this time comes probably as a last resort when we have exhausted all the legal, traditional, whatever avenues that we could have. Now, the challenge that his committee is going to face is what I pointed out. There has to be one Bawku Naba. Traditionally, it is only the Nairi who can deskin the rival chief. But nobody else can deskin the Bawku Naba, who is a Kusasi, because they don't regard the Nairi as their legitimate authority. The court has already pronounced that the Naba Abugrago Azoka II is the rightful Bawku Naba. So let's wait and see how the Asantehene is able to deploy all these traditional skills that he has to get the Nairi to accept an outcome that includes the deskinment of the rival chief. There may be other, gives and takes, other conditionalities that the Mampusis may ask for. But those are some of the questions that he needs to address.
And on the matter of you give a very, very important detail on the history, the background, and where we are now. How will this mediation, being led by Otufo Osei II now, be able to, as it were, address the mistrust that is also one of the major factors fueling this particular conflict, and the politics as well that this politics gets into? How should they address these two fundamental factors that influences the conflict as we're seeing now?
Well, to a very large extent, any mutual acceptance of some of the key proposals that the Asantehene will put before the two parties would be an approach that neutralizes the involvement of politics or political parties in the Bawku conflict. It is going to be seen largely as a traditional way of mediating between traditional leaders. But having said that, the outcome that results in one Bawku Naba is necessarily not going to be the end of what you call mistrust, but other challenges around, for instance, the socio-economic aspects of traditional authority, i.e. access to land and resources, for instance, which includes the Bawku Central Market that we shouldn't rule out. It wouldn't address the proliferation of small arms and light weapons that have found their way into the Bawku conflict. Neither will it address the proximity of the conflict and the likelihood, indeed, the idea that some terrorist elements have already engaged in the Bawku conflict. So those will be the remaining political issues or issues that will need to be addressed politically, because it's only the state that will have the instruments, if you like, to make Bawku a weapons-free zone in whatever form that the government decides to approach that. So it's going to be a very long process, and the Asantehene's, ability to break the ice, at least to bring the two parties together at Manshia Palace to talk, is a good start. Because in all mediation, the primary objective is to open up dialogue and get the parties to talk and learn gradually to trust one another or to respect one another and to learn to live together. Because the fact of the matter is that the Bawku, what do you call them? The Kusasis and the Mampusis cannot change where they are geographically in Ghana. They can select their friends from across the country or elsewhere, but they cannot unwrite the history that has brought them together as close, indeed, integrated neighbors. Then there will be other benefits. This afternoon I've just posted, for instance, that this conflict has had other impacts that we have not even begun to talk about. That Kusasis and Mampusis, slowly but steadily, are now not marrying or intermarrying. And intermarriages are a good mechanism for conflict resolution. So we're ending up, as some academics have suggested, turning Kusasis into homogeneous community or a homogeneous community, and turning Mampusis into a homogeneous community, i.e., segregating the two communities who live within their own localities and are not willing to accept the presence of one or the other, neighbors. So, to cut a long story short, this is very good news. And let's hope and pray that indeed I know, or I think, not that I know, I think that before the press release came, the staff of the Asante, together with maybe the government and other stakeholders, would already have approached the two parties who would have accepted to come to Menchia. Otherwise, the press release would not have been issued. One wouldn't expect that once the press release has been issued, one or both parties are now going to challenge the Asante or disregard or ignore the humble invitation for them to come to Menchia Palace. And of course, let me add that one reason why they are coming to Menchia Palace is not necessarily that the Asante king is superior to the Mampusi king, but we know that that environment, the Bawku environment, is not a safe environment. That even an IGP who is visiting is shot at. That members of parliament are assaulted or their properties and so on and so forth. So that may be the underlying factor of now looking for a neutral place, which is also significant because that's a traditional locality, i.e. the Menchia Palace of the Asante. And I don't think anybody should read any other meaning as to who is superior and who is not superior, or that kind of arguments.
Yeah. And I do appreciate your time on this matter. And there are many who have also called for the consideration of a possible declaration of state of emergency because of the considerable evolution of this particular conflict, where, as we have just seen, the IGP issuing that directive to police officers not to move in the area without any protection because two of the police officers have been gunned down 2 days ago. Is it one that you would support, that a state of emergency be considered in this area?
We have heard this call for states of emergency several times, especially regarding Galamsey. But a state can deploy significant coercive measures without necessarily declaring a state of emergency. Indeed, given the description of the Bawku conflict that you've just made, which has informed the IGP to curtail visits by families and even the police personnel, military personnel moving in and around Bawku, as freely as they might wish to. The state has the resources to reinforce the presence of the security forces. It has the capacity and indeed the legal authority to change the rules of engagement. For instance, it can impose other measures or other restrictions beyond this, is it dawn to dusk curfew that prevails at this stage. There are so many things that can be done. without necessarily declaring a state of emergency. And one of the things I would rather appeal to the government to consider is to reinforce the security forces. But before doing that, to also rotate them. I mean, move the old ones out of the area, because the morale is obviously very low. They have been exposed to risk and dangers. They have attracted, lack of cooperation or withdrawal of confidence, whatever, from the local population. So when you get to that stage, a new crop or a new group of security forces will come fresh, without all the setbacks that their predecessors might have experienced. I think those are some of the things that the government could consider doing. And to find a strategy of isolating Bawku from the inflows of small arms and light weapons. It can easily be done by the state. But I'm not too sure whether the state has, addressed its mind to this suggestion and subsequently deployed requisite measures to ensure that it becomes extremely difficult for people to smuggle arms and ammunition into the Bawku conflict. But if we do everything about the mediation which succeeds, and we do not address these conflict escalation dynamics, it's going to take a much longer time for Bawku to become a safer area, to now encourage people to return to Bawku, including all the government officials, the teachers, the nurses, the judges, and so on, who have fled and left Bawku to become a ghost town. So my recommendation will not be for a state of emergency declaration, but rather for strength.
Hello, Kenneth? Right. Unfortunately, we lost Kenneth Feso, but you're retired on the telephone.
Hello.
Yes. I'm
not hearing you.
Yes. I think that you made the point quite clearly, and that you do not support this call for the state of emergency. And thank you so much, Kenneth Feso Sabaji, retired there. He is a conflict and mediation expert, joining us with his thoughts on this. But we're keeping an eye on how things are playing out in Bawku. If you go on our Facebook page, 3FM927, we're showing you videos of the state of affairs in the Bawku municipality as we speak. And as you might really be aware now, the Ghana Police Service has expressed concern that its personnel and their families have become targets of attacks in Bawku and its surrounding areas. So that's a development right now. But away from that and to the matters of the economy, also important, Ghana has secured a critical staff level agreement with the International Monetary Fund, unlocking the release of some $370 million fifth tranche under the country's $3 billion bailout program. The agreement, reached after 2 weeks of intensive talks with the IMF officials, marks a pivotal step in Ghana's ongoing efforts to stabilize its economy and accelerate reforms. The fund, in a review, said growth in 2024 was higher than expected, underpinned by strong mining and construction activity. However, fiscal discipline weakened ahead of the elections, causing inflation overshoots and delayed reforms as well. It also acknowledged the bold measures undertaken by the new administration to address policy and reform slippages and ensure achievement of program objectives. Now, the measures include enacting a strong budget and public financial management reform, tightening monetary policy, and also adjusting utility tariffs. And as we've seen, from May 1, electricity tariffs and water tariffs are going to go up by a little over 14.7% and 4% respectively. Finance Minister Dr. Kasiela Tuforsen, announcing the deal in Accra earlier today, described it as a significant milestone and reaffirmed the government's commitment to restoring macroeconomic stability, achieved also by the debt sustainability platform and protecting vulnerable populations in the country. Here's the Finance Minister earlier today. We'll bring that to you shortly and hear from the finance minister here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7, also on Kesme 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. We're live on W 93.5 in Wa and beyond. Your thoughts, views, your thoughts and opinions are welcome here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Professor Lord Mensah is joining us on the on Zoom right now. He is a senior lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School and is also economics and financial expert with global indeed recognition. Joining us right now, Professor Lord Mensah. Good evening. Thank you for joining us here on Hot Edition.
Yeah, good evening, Alfred. Good evening to our listeners.
It's always good to have you. First of all, let me find out from you what this particular development really means for the economic development and the growth, in fact, the recovery that this administration is on, this IMF staff level agreement that the country has reached for the fifth tranche of the $370 million to be unlocked.
This is a good signal, to the entire, economy, and then also, I would say, to the investors who are looking at the economic dynamics of Ghana, and then possibly take their decision, going forward as far as the Ghanaian economy is concerned. Clearly, this administration has given out all the signals that shows that at least you can pose confidence in them when it comes to the economic, management of the country. Even though we had some fiscal slippages, getting into the election, and I've always been saying that, look, election year, you can't plan with it when it comes to, our economy. Those are the times that it turns out to be difficult to control, government expenditure. And so usually we tend to, falter when it comes to, election years. But then if you look at the budget that, the government, read, clearly gives you the signal that, there is hope. Because if you look at the primary balance, target for the end of the year, government is looking at somewhere around 1.5% to GDP surplus, of which, last year we did 3.5 in deficit, which in that case, anybody that is looking at this data and the projections will tell you that, look, indeed, government is doing well. It does not end there. For the government to come back with an amended, Fiscal Responsibility Act, which is projecting our debt to GDP ceiling to about 45% by the year 2038. If we work towards it gradually, I think it's a good sign. And looking at the posture of the finance minister himself, the IMF will not have any, doubt, from, the posture to say that, yes, indeed, we cannot trust this man for, the kind of economy he's trying to, manage. But then also, let's not forget from the IMF side that, this is a kind of a bilateral kind of agreement. And at the end of the day, IMF is well deep neck into it. And there's no way IMF will look at, the country, just the electioneering over expenditure and then the fiscal slippages and decide that they will not, support us. So from where I sit, I think government has done enough to pose, to the external, factors, to pose to external interest group that, the country is capable of, doing well in terms of its economic management. And it all boils down to fiscal discipline. If, government comes in with, a well-sized government, downsized government, looking at from over 100 ministers to, 60 ministers and strictly keeping to it, it gives hope. And, if I were to be IMF, obviously, what they have done is exactly what I would do.
See, but then again, I just bring in what the minority in parliament is saying, because you recall when the budget was presented by the finance minister, there was that conversation about some statistics or figures that were captured in the budget, and the minority's position that it did not reflect the realities of the state of the economy as they handed over to this administration. And essentially, they've been talking already. I've got a statement signed by Dr. Mohamed Amin Adam, the ranking member on the Finance Committee, the immediate past Finance Minister. He says that the staff level agreement between the IMF and the government of Ghana for the fourth review of the ongoing support for the program, in his view, just confirms their suspicion that government twisted fiscal data for political reasons. And that staff level agreement has confirmed their suspicions to the effect that the president and by extension the finance minister making the claim about the GDP growth rate as of end of 2024, and then also the inflation rate as was captured in the budget, in their view, just confirms the fact that it was just about politics. That whilst the finance minister in the 2025 budget announced the primary fiscal deficit on a commitment basis, that's the fiscal anchor of the IMF program, to be 3.9% of GDP, the IMF found it to be 3.25%, a difference of 0.7% of GDP. This, they say, is notwithstanding that the IMF itself departed from their own definition of the primary fiscal balance as defined in the technical memorandum of understanding reached at the beginning of the program. So essentially, they see all of this as a propaganda agenda that led to this agreement in the first place.
Yeah, well, we may have to appreciate, the lenses that are being used to project the data out there for myself and you sitting here as third parties. We're talking about a particular regime that was sitting by the data, and I have never disputed the fact that, the economy grew, above target, in the last year's economic data. But then clearly they also appreciate that there has been some kind of, fiscal, mismanagement when it comes to some, details within, the economic space. So effectively, we have to look at the lenses, and we should understand that once it's politics, parties will play, the numbers that will, suit them as it's supposed to be. So from where I sit, I think, IMF is the third party that really appreciate, the dynamics. And after all, we have a contract with them that is tied to certain releases that are supposed to come, to us to rescue, the economy as far as, our, foreign buffers is concerned. So if the provider of the finance is saying that this is how the thing has been over the past years, I think I will go with what the IMF is saying.
But then again, we are looking at these concerns plus the government's own target for the fiscal year 2025. How do you see things playing out, especially because, yes, it's one thing having these targets and another actually implementing the measures for the end year fiscal targets to be achieved, because we saw what happened in the year 2024, and the IMF has clearly captured it in the report as we have it right in front of me, to the effect that yes, indeed, there was some growth that was recorded and the number of the targets reached, but the fiscal slippages led to the inflation rising and also some other targets being missed because of the election spending in 2024. How do you see things playing out by end of year this year?
Not able to hit most of our targets, by the end of the year, then probably I will attribute that to how deep, the fiscal slippages were during the election campaign. If you look at the country as it stands, and you look at our economic numbers, you appreciate that the first 2 years after election normally are the recovery periods of the country. So this is going to be determined by how deep, the slippages were. But then I believe that with the IMF, I don't think that it will be deep as, we used to have it when, there was no IMF program. So hopefully by the end of, the year, we should be able to be close to the target that has been set.
Professor Lord Mensah, I appreciate you for this. Thank you so much for joining us here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. And he's a senior lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School and also a financial analyst joining us with his thoughts on this. So live here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7, also on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. We're live on W93.5 in Wa and beyond. On this same IMF staff level agreement, the minority has issued a statement which I referenced briefly, but in detail. They say that, quote, while the Minister for Finance in the 2025 budget announced a primary fiscal deficit on a commitment basis, the fiscal anchor of the IMF program to be 3.9% of GDP, the IMF found it to be 3.25%, a difference of about 0.7% of GDP. This is notwithstanding that the IMF itself departed from their own definition of the primary fiscal balance as defined in the technical memorandum of understanding reached at the beginning of the program. The minority further criticized what it called the propaganda agenda of the current administration, highlighting the staff level agreement vindicates the previous MPP government. And the former finance minister, or immediate past finance minister, and the ranking on the Finance Committee of Parliament, Dr. Mohamed Amin Adam, argued that the agreement disproves claims by President Mahama and the Finance Minister that the NPP had criminally managed the economy or breached IMF program terms. The staff level agreement, he says, has shown that most targets were met and the few missed could not collapse the program, contrary to what the government has pushed, according to this statement issued by the minority. There's more of it on 3news.com. Make some time and visit 3news.com. Here on Hot Edition, let's go to some more stories where Professor Patrick Esumin has also been talking about the impact and also how much of a difference this fifth tranche of 370 million is going to make to the economy.
So it means that after the review, after the government team and the IMF team review the data and the progress, they have agreed that we are making enough progress. So the staff level agreement is the first stage before you send it to the board for approval before disbursement. So it means that based on the discussion with the government team, the IMF staff team that visited are satisfied with what the discussions and the progress that has been made, as well as the corrective actions. So they are happy with that, and that will eventually go to the IMF board.
Indeed, but if you look at the communique that they issued, yes, the fund acknowledged strong growth in 2024, but was worried about fiscal slippages by the end of 2024. That shouldn't be surprising to you because it was an election year, isn't it?
No, it wasn't surprising to me. I think, by the third quarter of the year, the numbers that we are seeing at that time still said the government was keeping to the agreed target. But, we always know. I think it's only once in the Fourth Republic did we not mess up our fiscal indicators in an election year. So regardless of the promises, you always knew that this was always likely to happen. I think it's just the extent of it. I think of a target of a surplus of 1.5 on the primary balance to a deficit of 3.5 is quite high. But I cannot say I was surprised.
The extent of it, you say, what kind of long-term repercussions do you expect as a result of our failure to ensure we stuck within budget?
Well, the current government has decided to take a wide swing at it. So it decided to recover and bring us back to the target within one budget cycle. In fact, it's less than one budget cycle. That is a 9-month budget that is the start. But what it means is that we are going to take more painful cuts. That's exactly what the current finance minister is trying to implement. So there is going to be heavy tightening to ensure that we bring us back on track for the program and then kind of restore the confidence of the IMF board. I'm sure the IMF staff would have been impressed to see that we are quickly trying to take corrective measures. That's probably why we'll be able to reach a staff level agreement that quickly.
Oh, that's Professor Patrick Asumin, is economist at the University of Ghana Economics Department. Now let's go to matters of illegal mining. Daryl Bosu is going to be joining us in a bit for a conversation on the matters of illegal mining. A joint team from the Forestry Commission in the Western region and the armed forces stormed Abrewa Ninkrani, a notorious Galamsey enclave across the Subri Forest Reserve. Now, during the raid, the task force touched makeshift camps belonging to the illegal miners, mostly foreign nationals, who had been mercilessly plundering the forest reserve. The move forms part of effort in protecting the Subri Forest Reserve from further destruction. The Subri Forest Reserve had recently become a hotspot for illegal mining activities, rendering hundreds of hectares of vegetation cover destroyed. So let's give you a feel of exactly what happened when the Western Regional Forest Officer, together with the military, also stormed this area. If you go on our Facebook page at 3FM927, you see the videos of this raid.
The Forestry Commission in the Western region have been embarking on series of raids in the Subri Forest Reserve. If you take this year, within the first quarter of this year, 3 raids have been done in the Forest Reserve, with some arrests being made at other raids. They don't get any arrest. The illegal miners do abscond. According to sources within the task force, it was through a covert surveillance and community tip-off and drone imagery that's exposing unusual land activity that led the task force to identify that Abroad Ninkrani as a major illegal mining hub. This community is rightly across the Subri Forest Reserve, and it will surprise you to know that the number of foreign nationals outnumbers the number of Ghanaians natives in the community. People from Nigeria, Niger, Guinea have come to pitch camp in this small community, and one will wonder what will attract someone to travel a journey from a far distance to Ghana just to stay or reside in a very remote village like Auneni in crime, if not to do Galamsey. With that aside, the place is also a fast going into a hub for nefarious activities like child trafficking and child prostitution, and also the sale of illicit drug. This intelligence painted a clear picture that Abroad Ninkrani is growing, has become a nerve center of illegal, a well-organized illegal mining syndicate. Hence, the raid which led to the discovery and the banning of Chamfines, water pumping machines, and also the touching of shelters to compel these foreigners or illegal miners to move from site. For the Forestry Commission in the region, they are very poised on flashing out and halting activities of illegal mining in the Subri Forest Reserve. So I've been speaking with Nana Kobina Busompe, who is the Western Region Forestry Manager. He has been issuing a stern warning to all illegal miners to vacate their site before the team storms up with them.
A caution, and I'll use your medium to sign a caution. Notice is hereby used. Money laundering, counterfeit, you name them. And we are getting nationals from all over the sub-region. It appears this community is a representation of ECOWAS. So we have people from other neighboring West African countries, from the Sahelian regions, from Guinea, from Niger, from Burkina Faso, from Nigeria, from Mali, and all of them are here. And this is a rural community. Why are they here? You can tell that there is no place within the community that they are mining. They are mining in the Subri Forest Reserve, and the effect on the impact of the illegal mining on the forest is very devastating. So as you can see, we raided this community. We managed to get rid of the entire illegal hub that was probably constructed by these illegal miners as a hub. And in fact, what we've seen here is an issue. We managed to rescue some few foreign young Nigerians. One of them confided in us that her madam brought her the kind of work that she's expected her to do, she's not going to do. And clearly such a minor is being trafficked and involved in prostitution right here in this village.
Among the this is
Well, so that's what's happening there right now in the Western region. We're keeping an eye on how things are playing out. If you go on our Facebook page at 3FM927, we're showing you videos of this raid and this particular area where the the military, together with the Forestry Commission, Forest Guards, also stormed the area to clamp down on the nefarious activities by, as has been described, a number of them being foreign nationals in this area. Also engage in illegal mining. We'll come back to this particular story and engage some of the civil society organizations that have been leading the campaign against the fight against illegal mining in this country. But there's been mixed reactions to the threat by the new mayor of Kumasi, Richard Ofori Ajuman, popularly known as King Zubato, to flog traders who disregard city bylaws or operate at unauthorized places. Now, the mayor emphasized that his bodyguards will now not hesitate to take firm action against such persons. This comes ahead of the major decongestion exercise scheduled for Edom on Wednesday, April 16, aimed at restoring order and sanitizing the bustling commercial hub. Take a listen to the mayor earlier today.
There's something we are going to do, and that is where I need your support. As for me, I don't like reporting too many things to the police. I don't want a situation whereby we'll put in place a police team, we'll go arrest people, and then they go to the police station, they find their own means, and they are back on the street. That would be a waste of time and resources for me. So I have my own democratic military style, which I'll be implementing. When we say leave this space, and you don't leave this space, and I get there, if I'm alone, you'll be lucky. But if I'm there, and my 10 boys are in their pickup with me, with their crepes, trust me, we'll beat you. If you don't want to experience that kind of situation, do that which is right and which is lawful. This is Otumfor City. This is the Asantehene City. This is the Garden City of West Africa. We have to preserve its image. And I am here to work to satisfy the city for Otumfor. And I want to ensure that this city looks like Otumfor City. And when we talk to you, and we implore on you to adhere to that which we all do, and we can all have peace, and you want to let the job become difficult for me, I will let your body feel the difficulty that you are giving to me. So when it gets to that period, please, don't sit on your radio station and say that Akwawe or Basabasa or Bahat or training and all those things. Please, it is all aimed at making sure that, one, we have a disciplined city, we have a sanitized city, and we have the kind of Kumasi that we have. If you
Well, meanwhile, the mayor has warned that any stray cattle spotted in Kumasi metropolis will be seized, slaughtered, and used to feed prison inmates in Kumasi.
If you're a cattle owner and you have cattle and your cattle stray and they are coming into the domain of KMA, be rest assured that from the 1st of May, those cattle will be killed and be given to the Kumasi Central Prison for feeding. Especially the areas from the airport leading up to Menchia. I cannot sit here and let visitors get to this beautiful airport. And when they're driving to Menchia, all that they encounter is feces from cattle. This is unacceptable.
This particular position has generated a number of reactions, especially with many who were questioning this position taken by the mayor. But some traders have reacted to the KMA boss's comments on what they intend to do beginning tomorrow.
The asphalted road that is meant for lorries to pass through, is it lawful? Nobody has told us traders that when we are trading, move away. For me, I've listened to the audio of the new mayor. He gave chronology of events, right from move away within 2 weeks. After 2 weeks, you don't move away. You come back in the evening and come and take your things away. If you come back again, you come and move them away. Then, at the extreme end, brings in the lashing issue. That's the extreme end. The fact of the matter is that we shouldn't push the mayor into that corner. I'm a trader. I find it so uncomfortable, for instance, moving from Toyotia to Hello to Borrow. It's simple and short. What is wrong is wrong.
akama ye be du adepa ye be you no anya gro ne bura be bro okra ho ba fo enti e ase ano ohye kakra every say say no otu ye ne a ye nim ba bia ye ko enti no de e be sren say eno de enka ekwa no ho no say payment no so na ye ntena kra na nipa betina afa ho na nipa ni pin na chi na e be bo a onya ho bibi.
Those are some residents in the Kumasi metropolis reacting to the new mayor's statement there. But some news just coming through. The Minister for Foreign Affairs, Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa, has announced the arrest of Bright Mensah Bonsu, the man who allegedly received $1.5 million cash and signed documents purporting to sell a prime diplomatic property belonging to Ghana's High Commission in Nigeria. He was arrested by Ghanaian security operatives. In a statement posted on Facebook, Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa said Bright Mensah Bonsu described himself as a special aide to former Ghana High Commissioner to Nigeria, the late Alhaj Rashid Bauer, who was appointed by President Akufo-Addo. Got excerpts of that statement. It reads, "It is important to emphasize that the $1.5 million cash was not paid into government accounts, neither is there any record at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs that the cash was officially declared. Documents reveal that Bright Mensah Bonsu and his collaborators had valued the prime Lagos beachfront diplomatic property at $5.3 million and considered the $1.5 million payment as a first installment. The outcome of the 2024 elections must have thwarted their plans. We're also investigating the circumstances under which Bright Mensah Bonsu was issued a diplomatic passport on October 18, 2023 by the Akufo-Addo Bawumia government, when from all assessment he could not have been eligible for a diplomatic passport. Bright Mensah Bonsu was not a staff of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs or the Ghana High Commission in Nigeria, even though he was often seen in the company of the High Commissioner. As we await criminal prosecution shortly, it will be interesting to see how Mensah Bonsu backs his claims that he acted on the instructions of his superiors and that those superiors gave him access to documents on the diplomatic property. This latest significant development should send clear assurances to Nigerian government officials and the Nigerians attempted buyer, who have all desperately petitioned the Mahama government demanding our intervention, that consistent with what we have always said, we have and taken this matter very seriously, will do everything in our power to bring the notorious criminals to justice and recover the said $1.5 million, unquote. The Mahama administration would not shield anyone who played a role in this grand conspiracy, not only to commit crime, but to dent Ghana's enviable international image. The government of Ghana is equally determined not to allow this condemnable incident to mar great and ancestral bilateral relations with Nigeria. The statement ends that, let me state for the umpteenth time, quote, "No diplomatic property belonging to the people of Ghana is for sale. Severe consequences await anyone who tests our resolve." This is a statement signed by Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa, the Foreign Affairs Minister, on the said $1.5 million cash paid to one Bright Mensah Bonsu, who has been arrested as we speak. There's more of this on 3news.com. Make some time and visit 3news.com. We're going to go for the script break. When we are back, we'll settle for the business news. Michael Obodo is standing by.
Accra, Ghana. I wake up early every weekday because of you, to keep you on top of your game. Yeah!
You are at the center of our universe. That's why we make it a duty to serve you only the freshest, hottest news and entertainment. When you want it, where you want it.
Good morning, Ghana, Africa, and the rest of the wonderful world. Welcome to Sunrise on 3FM 92.7. Start your day well informed. Start with us on Sunrise on 3FM 92.7. Catch the all-new Sunrise Morning Show on 3FM 92.7 with me, Johnny Hughes, Helen Apiambofo. Weekdays from 5:55 a.m. to 10 a.m. only on 3FM 92.7.
3FM, your urban lifestyle radio.
every weekday because of you, to keep you on top of your game. Yeah!
You are at the center of our universe. That's why we make it a duty to serve you only the freshest, hottest news and entertainment. When you want it, where you want it.
Good morning, Ghana, Africa, and the rest of the wonderful world. Welcome to Sunrise on 3FM 92.7. Start your day well informed. Start with us on Sunrise on 3FM 92.7. Catch the all-new Sunrise Morning Show on 3FM 92.7 with me, Johnny Hughes, Helen Apiambofo. Weekdays from 5:55 a.m. to 10 a.m. only on 3FM 92.7.
3FM, your urban lifestyle radio.
And hello there, good evening and welcome to the business segment here on Hot Edition. Coming up tonight, financial economists expects Ghana IMF staff level agreement to boost investor confidence in the country. I am Michael Obodu. Details of these and many other stories coming up shortly. Please stay tuned. Straight into our top story, and financial economist Dr. Eric Boakye Yadom says any money coming into the country will help in stabilizing the Ghanaian economy. The IMF staff level agreement, however, comes after some fiscal slippages towards the end of 2024. The IMF and the government reached staff level agreement, an announcement that was made earlier today.
The staff level arrangement between the government of Ghana and IMF to unlock a possible 370 million. It's a welcoming news, especially at this time. Every dollar coming into the country matters a lot. And to be able to tap into 370 million will support our foreign exchange activities. Although we know that it is pending board level agreement, but as the tradition has been, usually if the staff level agreement is reached, the board level will not be so much of a difficult thing to cross. But what is refreshing to me is the fact that this government has been able to continue what was started by the previous administration, and there is a seamless transition, and that goes to reinforce that governance is continuous, and to be able to manage the relationship between Ghana and IMF in terms of the ECF facility is good, and it's sent a good and positive signal to the investment community.
So that was financial economist Dr. Eric Boakye Yadom speaking there. Now, the Ghana Revenue Authority is targeting a significant increase in tax revenue, aiming to reach 360 billion Ghana cedis by 2028, representing a 64% jump from the 2025 target of 220 billion cedis. To achieve this ambitious goal, the GRA plans to intensify tax education efforts to boost compliance. Acting Commissioner General Anthony Kwesi Sapon made the disclosure at the GRA Workers' Union 11th National Executive Council meeting in Accra.
Raising revenue should not only be today's work, but we must also look into the future. So this year we have set ourselves to raise 220 billion. But if this must be sustained, we must also look into the future. So we've also tasked ourselves to say raising 360 billion by 2028. How do we do this? In Ghana, we must all first of all know that if we collectively comply with our basic tax laws, we can raise the revenue. So one of the key areas is enforcing or ensuring that we educate taxpayers to comply with our laws and voluntarily file their taxes as their civic responsibility towards national development. The second is also ensuring that we connect what we call the digital economy in our tax system. So when we talk about the digital economy,
the Commissioner General also highlighted that the authority has commenced processes to enroll all online businesses operating in the country in the tax net.
Businesses, instead of doing brick and mortar, are running businesses on the digital platforms where buyers and sellers do their trading. Second, we do have many businesses which are also showing up in other online places. And in Ghana today, for example, if you want to find several service providers, you go to Instagram and you find them. How do we ensure that all of these people who are doing businesses, not in the physical brick and mortar but online, are able to come onto the TaxNet? And GRA, we have already commenced a program to bring on board the digital economy, because it is the business of the future. And if it is the business of the future, then the revenue for the future resides there. So we are looking at all of these areas to ensure that we at par or exceed in terms of knowledge of the taxpayer and be able to bring them together into the TaxNet.
So that was Acting Commissioner General of the Ghana Revenue Authority, Anthony Kwesi Sapon, speaking there. Away from that, the Minister for Works and Housing and Water Resources, Kenneth Gilbert J, says he's optimistic the country's housing deficit will significantly reduce through the implementation of the district housing project. The initiative, which was introduced under the previous administration, aims to construct affordable homes in rural areas using locally sourced materials. This policy, he believes, will help bolster the local construction industry and the economy.
The minister, speaking at the 6th Green Housing Summit, emphasized the importance of green finance in delivering sustainable and inclusive housing solutions nationwide. Ghana currently has a 1.8 million housing deficit, a situation that is further exacerbated by the high cost of credit in the country.
To effectively achieve the objectives of this commendable initiative, we must also prioritize green finance. We recognize that constrained access to financial resources significantly hinder sustainable construction efforts. Hence, we are collaborating with our valued development partners, including the United Nations Environment Programme, the United Nations Office for Project Services, UN Habitat, and key private sector stakeholders to develop tailored financial solutions for green housing projects.
The Chief Executive Officer of the State Housing Company, John Bauer, has reaffirmed the organization's commitment to its core mandate of delivering affordable housing through piloting of an urban redevelopment project aimed at producing modern, sustainable and budget-friendly homes.
As part of our current restructuring process, I have introduced a manager role in charge of planning and sustainability with a very clear mandate, which is to build capacity in green building technology. The objective is to explore ways in which we can green our already completed and ongoing developments and to ensure all new projects employ sustainable and environmentally friendly elements.
So that was the Managing Director of the State Housing Corporation, John Bauer. They're bringing an end to the business segment here on Hot Edition. For more business stories, please visit our website, is3news.com/business. I am Michael Lubudu. Thank you for listening. As always, please stay safe. Up next is sports, and Bill Ishen is on standby. Stay tuned.
Hello, good evening and welcome to the sports segment here on the 3FM Hot Edition. My name is Bill Ishen. Now, with less than 2 weeks to go to the start of the 2025 Under-20 AFCON, the Black Satellites have intensified preparations for the continent's most prestigious football tournament at the Under-20 level. The Black Satellites have been drawn in Group C alongside Senegal, DR Congo and Central African Republic. My colleague Oreku Ampofo assesses the chances of the Black Satellites.
the AFCON and then possibly even into the World Cup as well. But a lot of factors do come into play. There's the age factor. Some of them were around 19, almost 20 in these last tournaments, and as a result cannot participate in this tournament as well. There's also the club factor that I mentioned. As a result, you'd have to tap into a wider pool of players, and even with that, it's difficult because you're still trying to convince players from teams that are playing right now, and you're looking at teams that they're trying to call players from. It's a very critical part of the season, just about 2 more months to go. These teams don't want to lose their players, and so it's a really difficult, and even if they do come, they're going to end up releasing these players in the final days to the tournament. And that's the reason why now we're going to see a lot of the local-based players training here at Accra Sports Stadium, not the foreign ones, because they would only get a chance to join the team straight in Morocco. What we do know is that the team will leave Ghana on Saturday, and so we do suspect that a large chunk of the foreign-based players would meet up with the team in Morocco and probably have about 5 days to train before the tournament starts. So it's not really ideal, but you have to make do with it. It's not just the Ghana issue, it's the whole continental issue, something that maybe CAF and FIFA have to address to ensure that it falls within the window for international games. So we're seeing the best of.
That was my colleague Oreko Ampa for giving the rundown of the Black Satellites as they prepare for the Under-20 AFCON in Egypt. Now, in the Ghana Premier League, football analyst and CEO of Bawku Group, Dr. Ernest Cranton, believes the competitive nature of the ongoing Ghana Premier League season makes it difficult to predict the winner. With just 8 game weeks to go, the top 3 clubs are separated by just 2 points.
Hearts of Oak is completely out of it. How many? 8 games to end the season, 8 or 9 games to end the season. I don't know if Hearts of Oak is completely out of it, but I'm more interested in staying with a conversation about how competitive the season has been. Because if this unfolds anywhere else, we will be talking about how competitive that league is with 8 games to go, and you have up to 4 or 5 teams in with a big shout. They all can win it, etc. So I like for us to look at that, because sometimes depending on the story you're telling, you've got to take the factors that help you to tell a better story. So my opinion is, if things are going this way and with 8 or so games to end, or 7 games to end the season, and you have up to 3-4 teams in with a big shout to win the Premier League, for me, it is good enough. We won't get into the quality and all of the conversations yet, but that premise that okay, you have up to 4 teams able to win the league. If it's not Asante Kotoko, you could have Gold Stars, etc. Win the league.
That was Dr. Ernest Cranton talking about the Ghana Premier League's 3-horse race. Now, before we head into Europe, let's do some more where the campaign bells are tolling at the Ghana Olympic Committee. After serving for 2 terms from 2017 to 2025, Ben Nunu Mensah is stepping down as president. My colleague Akusi J provides a comprehensive overview of what to expect during the post.
So far for the presidency, 2 people will be filing, as the filing date, the deadline for the filing will be tomorrow and the 17th of April. That's when the deadline for it. But now Mike Agri, he's been in and out of different committees on the GOC. And then we also have lawyer Apokavi, who has also showed his intention to be the president of the GOC. We know that the GOC oversees everything for Ghana in terms of our qualification to the Olympics, in terms of our participation as well in the Olympics. And unfortunately, the current president, Ben Nunu Mensah, is not going to be contesting again, even though as the GOC president, you have 3 terms in office, 4 years each. But this time, he will not be contesting. And so it leaves the presidency position vacant. And so we have these 2 men who want to now pick up that position from Ben Nunu Mensah. We know that in Ghana's quest to win Olympic medals, a lot of the work will have to be done down at the federation levels and then up to the Ghana Olympic Committee level. And so in the coming days, we are going to be seeing a lot more of the candidates who are showing themselves. A lot other positions, including the general secretaries, the treasurers, but the most important one that we are looking at is the position of the presidents, because they do hold a lot of power.
That was Akusie J talking about the Ghana Olympic Committee. The elections will be taking place on April 26th. Now, Antoine Semenyo scored in the second minute to give Bournemouth all 3 points against Fulham in the final game of match week 32. It is the Ghanaian's first goal since February, and he takes his total this season to 8 to match his tally from the previous season. Despite scoring 8 Premier League goals, the former Bristol City forward admits he could have done better in front of goal, but he will be hoping to change his fortune and add more goals in the remaining matches.
I feel like I should be getting more. I feel like I've had numerous opportunities in games where I should have smashed it, I should have just placed it and missed a couple chances. And I know for myself, with the quality I have, I should be getting better numbers. So that's something I'm working on. I'm working on my game. Every week in training, the manager keeps banging on, helping me with little things, little clips, watching over. So I'm working on that, and hopefully with these next 6-5 games to go, hopefully I can get some numbers up, get a couple more goals and a couple more assists.
That was Antoine Semenyo speaking there. Meanwhile, transfer expert David Ornstein has confirmed that Manchester United manager, that is Ruben Amorim, is a huge fan of Ghanaian international and Bournemouth talisman Antoine Semenyo heading into the 2025 summer transfer window. The Athletic reporter revealed that Amorim is, in quotes, very fond of the Bournemouth winger, which explains why United are believed to have, quote, open talks with their Premier League competitor over a potential swoop.
Clubs the size of Liverpool, Manchester City, on the continent, AC Milan and Napoli as well. And then there's Antoine Semenyo. What a season he has had. And a player that Manchester United, their manager, Ruben Amorim, is very fond of. Now, they would be looking to sell him for a fee of in excess of what they got for Dominic Solanke, which was £65 million, because there's no release clause. They would want a club record. I don't think both he and Kirkes will go after Huijsen, so it's maybe two of the three.
That was David Ornstein speaking about Manchester United's potential interest for Antoine Semenyo. Now, it's Champions League night again, but Tuesday's action carries little anticipation after excellent execution by PSG and Barcelona in the first leg. PSG defeated Aston Villa by 3-1, and Barcelona defeated Dortmund by 4-0. My colleague Mutala Yakubu gives a comprehensive preview of these games.
Two very big games coming up today in the UEFA Champions League. First, the Signal Iduna Park, where Barcelona would be taking on Borussia Dortmund. Barcelona got a very comfortable 4-0 win in the first leg of this fixture, and it doesn't look like Borussia Dortmund can overturn that. Looking at their standards this season, Dortmund are struggling in the German Bundesliga and only got some respite last week when they drew against Bayern Munich. But Barcelona are too good to allow themselves to be beaten or for Dortmund to overturn a 4-0 scoreline. Dortmund have not been good this season. So Hansi Flick and his charges can go to the Signal Iduna Park. And I even see Barcelona scoring again at the Signal Iduna Park. The biggest game would actually be played at the Villa Park, where Aston Villa will come up against Paris Saint-Germain. Paris Saint-Germain are coming into this game on the back of a 3-1 win. And that third goal that was scored by Nuno Mendes at the Parc des Princes was the icing on the cake for them. You could see how they were jubilating because that third goal was like a sucker punch. 3-1 win. It's not beyond Villa looking at the quality they have, but can they keep Paris Saint-Germain out from scoring? Because this PSG side, and Enrique scores from all over the page. There's Eredue, Varacelia, and Neves, even Ousmane Dembele. All these players can score goals. If Aston Villa can get 2 quick goals, then it sets the tone for them to put pressure on PSG and get a third. But I don't see Villa doing that. I still think that Paris Saint-Germain have enough quality in their ranks to go past Aston Villa.
That was the wrap by my colleague Mutala Yakubu ahead of those two games between PSG and Aston Villa and Barcelona versus Dortmund, which will take place tonight at 7 p.m. Meanwhile, despite their defeat in the first leg, Morgan Rogers is optimistic that Aston Villa supporters can have a, quote, massive impact on the club's UEFA Champions League tie against Paris Saint-Germain, and insists the squad are full of belief and determination. Villa will host PSG, hoping to overturn that 3-1 deficit from the first leg.
There's massive belief. Most people wrote us off before the tie. the first leg, I think we gave a pretty good account of ourselves. Of course, there's details and areas that we want to improve on and learn from for the second leg, but ultimately we know what they're like now. We've played them. We're kind of more comfortable in that sense of already playing them, and this one we know there's a task at hand. We know what we need to do, but we're excited. Under the lights at home, playing in this competition in the quarter-final, there's not many places better to be, and if anyone's going to turn it around, it's going to be us, and it's down to us, and I think we're excited for that challenge. We're looking forward to it. We know it's going to be difficult, but we're not saying we're going to do it by any stretch of the imagination, but we're definitely going to give it a go and go.
That was Morgan Rogers, an Aston Villa player. Before we do go, let's do some tennis, where world number 2 Carlos Alcaraz came back from a breakdown in the second set to defeat Ethan Quinn 6-2, 7-6, 8-6 and reach the Barcelona Open last 16. The home favourites, who triumphed at the Monte Carlo Masters last week, stormed through the first set, but Quinn, that is ranked 126th, battled valiantly in the second. The 21-year-old is aiming for a third triumph on the clay in Barcelona after lifting the trophy in 2022 and 2023. He was unable to participate in the last edition because of injury. Bringing an end to sports here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. My name is Bill Shen. We have Alfred and the rest of the team on standby with more.
Early every weekday because of you, to keep you on top of your game. Yeah!
You are at the center of our universe. That's why we make it a duty to serve you only the freshest, hottest news and entertainment. When you want it, where you want it.
Good morning, Ghana, Africa, and the rest of the wonderful world. Welcome to Sunrise on 3FM 92.7. Start your day well informed. Start with us on Sunrise on 3FM 92.7. Catch the all-new Sunrise Morning Show on 3FM 92.7 with me, Johnny Hughes, Helen Apiambofo. Weekdays from 5:55 a.m. to 10 a.m. only on 3FM 92.7.
3FM, your urban lifestyle radio.
Welcome back. You're so live here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. We're also on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. We're live on W 93.5 in Wa and beyond. Your thoughts, views, comments, and opinions are welcome on the issues we're getting into this evening here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Let's go straight to the Volta region, because the Volta region minister, James Gono, has tasked the Electricity Company of Ghana to take immediate steps to address the recurring power outages in the region. The minister, who paid a courtesy call and a surprise visit to the regional office of the company in Ho Tuesday morning, expressed concern about the damages being caused to economic and social life by the intermittent power situation in the region. Now, correspondent Faiza Abdul Idris is joining us on the telephone right now for a bit more detail into this. Faisal, appreciate you for joining us here. Faisal, if you can hear us, first of all, tell us, what the situation is when it comes to the power outages. How bad is it?
The situation has become worse lately. The issue of the persistent low outage started somewhere around October last year, but I can say that between February and now, it has become more consistent. Almost every night there is a light out, even in the regional capital. If not a light out, there is low voltage situation across the most part of the region. And so concerns have been heightened lately among residents, business owners who keep government and ECG largely on the situation in the region. Alfred.
Now, you've been interacting with the residents even before the minister spoke. What is the extent of the impact of this outages, the intermittent outages, on businesses and on livelihoods in the area?
Yes, business owners tell you that for those who rely largely on electricity to power their operations, they go to work sometimes in the morning, and because of the low voltage, they are not able to power their machines. I spoke with a welder recently who told me that for a container that he would use 2 days to complete, he now has to do that within 4 days because oftentimes he gets to work and there's no light, and so he would just have to go and relax somewhere until the light comes. And so productive hours are being lost to the situation. Those who are running cold stores tell you that the meat they store is going bad because of the intermittent power outages. Households tell you about how uncomfortable they come in the night when the power goes off, and now because of the climate condition, there's so much heat they are not able to sleep, and so the issue of the power outage is of great concern to both business owners and the various households across the country. It's affecting livelihoods largely. Alfred.
See, let's hear from the regional minister, James Gono, exactly what he said regarding this intermittent power outages and why that's of serious concern to the ministry and by extension the people in the area, and reason why he wants some action to be taken to address the matter. Let's take a listen to the minister right now on this particular development in the region here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7, also on Kesme 107.1 in Tamale and on W 93.5 in Wa and beyond.
I received a lot of problems. Myself, I'm feeling it. We've written a letter to you. I don't know whether you've received a letter. Very well. But we are not happy with the services that you are rendering to us. Whatever the challenges are, let's know, and let there be communication, regular communication with the people. Tell them today you are going to put up their light. Let them prepare for it. Let them prepare for it. We'll be there and they will be light up. Every now and then light up. People's fridges and other things are spoiled as a result of that. They will start charging you for these things. Why? Electricity Company of Ghana, Volta region. What is happening? Please. So I'm here representing the entire region. Tell me and make sure you tell others what exactly your plans are. People are reading, a meaning into this. That is a sabotage. Why do you sabotage yourself?
That's a regional minister there talking about the sabotage as he referenced. Now, you were there at this particular meeting. What exactly did the ECG in the region say with regards to this intermittent power outages?
Yeah, so the general manager, ECG Volta region, Madame Christina Jato-Kaleo, who received the regional minister, though it was a surprise visit, admitted that they are very much aware of the power crisis in the region, and they are working closely with Gridco, which she said have much to do with the situation. What she told us earlier today was that ECG is only transmitting what they got from, or what they get regularly from Gridco, and so once they do not get the required standard, the required quantity and quality, the likelihood is that consumers in the region would suffer. And so they've been working with Gridco lately to ensure that the issues are solved. She also indicated that they would want to seek audience with the regional minister in the coming days, that is ECG, Gridco, and other relevant authorities as far as the supply of electricity is concerned, so that they will put before the regional minister issues that they think the regional minister could intervene in ensuring that this issue is addressed largely. Let's listen to what she told us.
In the whole of the week, we've been having engagements with Gridco because they transmit to us. If what they are giving us is not up to the quality or the standard, we can't do much if what they are giving us is already low, it means those at the very far end, by the time it gets to you, it's low. So that one, ECG doesn't have much to do. It's our, let me say, whether it's our twin brother or our senior brother who would help us. And we are in talks. In fact, the whole of the week, yesterday we went on our system. You notice that around the 9th, between 9, 10 there, it goes off. They are system trips. And because we are taking from them, when they are off, we are off. 22nd, they said they believe that when they do that, their maintenance work, it will solve the current problem we are having. The low voltage problem. The low, and the outages. The low voltage, of course, we will handle that one too. This thing that is going, we have informed one of our sections, protection and control. They are also in talks with the Greco people at Akosombo and Accra. So we are arranging, if there's a need, our people will come down and we'll all meet, go to site and see exactly what it is, how we can help them, and we'll all be free.
That's the ECG manager for the Volta region there. And Faisal, appreciate you for this detail. Thank you so much. Faisal Abdul is our Volta regional correspondent, and this morning on 3news.com. Make some time and visit 3news.com. Join me at 10 p.m. on TV3 for Ghana Tonight. On behalf of the rest of the team, thank you so much for staying with us here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. We're also live on Kesmi 107.1 and on W 93.5 in Wa and beyond. I am Alfred Ocansey. Have a good evening and enjoy the rest of our programs.